So we're going live in 3, 2, 1. Good day, my friend Edgar Musrios.
Yes.
Welcome back to the Academy of Men podcast.
We're here, episode 6, right?
Episode number 6.
Yep, 6 in.
So we want to thank again all of our listeners,
Yes.
and we are glad to be back. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. It's a pleasure to be here as always, hosting this with you. And estamos aquí, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are we doing today? What are we talking about today?
I do want to give a shout out to Edgar because this gentleman literally contacts me all the time and tells me, bro, are we recording? Are we recording? Are we recording? For me to sit down for an hour at just to record at this moment in my life,
Yeah, bro.
it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
So I am more than grateful to be here and to continuously provide value to all of you listeners. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you for taking the time to do this, too. But it already passed proof of concept.
For sure, right?
It already passed proof of concept. So I think that is something worth investing more time into.
Yeah.
Y por eso que estamos aquí.
Yep. I'm excited.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I wanted
for us today.
I got a few things, man. I've been really thinking about this episode. So many different conversations that I want to have, specifically with you. Just because we both share a male perspective, a Latino male's perspective,
Yeah.
right, in the 21st century, and there are a few avenues that I wanted to discuss because you and I bring different perspective, although we are very similar. Let's start off with relationships. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. I wanted to discuss relationships because we live in wild times.
We do live in very wild times, yeah.
For sure. Marriage rate overall is in decline, as we all know. And it is known that the average marriage lasts it doesn't last. There's a 50% chance of just divorce in general.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so many avenues to go through there, right? Like the whole idea of marriage, the concept of marriage, why we do it, but also like the day-to-day life of being a single male.
And you completely on the other side of the spectrum.
Exactly.
Man, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have 10 years married in
A decade.
a decade, bro. In 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Man, I've known you for more than a decade.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's pretty wild because I'm not really sure how I ended up here.
Yeah. Just looking around like,
You know what I'm saying?
how does all happen?
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that I get and it's it. I do appreciate the fact that I get to look back and think and analyze, right? Why would a 21-year-old male get married? Which was the age that I got married, right? Why even go down
Weren't you a practicing Christian? when you got
Correct.
Married? Yeah. So
Yeah.
it made perfect sense for you.
Yeah, for me it made perfect
Yeah.
sense
At the time.
at the time.
Yeah.
Exactly. But also the fact that you have different marriages throughout different religions and
Yeah.
different organizations that the state gets involved or doesn't get involved. The journey of finding a mate,
Yeah.
right? A suitable mate.
Yeah.
Courting them,
Mm-hmm.
developing a relationship for a decent amount of time, asking the hand for marriage, right?
Yeah.
Me and Stephanie laugh because in certain cultures, a father would give an endowment for his daughter, right? Like for me to have married Samantha, I would have gotten like 5 cows, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or like 2 sheeps or whatever the case
Yeah.
might be, you know? And just that's pretty
What a
wild.
time to get married, right?
For sure. But in my case, you know, went to the father, asked the hand for marriage, the blessing, proposed, got in one knee, right? And the whole concept of one knee or being in on one knee, which is, you can talk on the topic later, but and then going through the process of marriage,
Yeah.
right? Joanne is a certified what do they call them? Those people that marry people.
He is now?
He is.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's doing his first marriage in like 3 weeks.
What?
Insane, right? Which you can go online and get certified. But
Wow. I did not know that.
you know, just diving into that whole world of, you know,
That's deep.
yeah. And so, but I wanted to hear from you.
What about?
I mean, just your perspective on it, really, and what has been your experience throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. For me personally, and I got a preference or whatever the word is, some of my life, in order for you to understand like my outlook on it.
Yep.
I grew up with a lesbian mother
Mm-hmm.
who hid the fact she was lesbian from me for a very long time.
Mm.
It wasn't until I became older until I was able to see that, you know, Titi is not Titi. You know what I mean? And like before she was introduced as a sister, best friends, very close, very close. And I was very naive, and just my lack of,
I mean,
you know, I was a teenager. You know, I just didn't think anything of it.
right.
But so we grew up going in and out of churches.
Yep.
I don't know if it was because of economic hardship or it's because maybe they found out the secret. But we went from Catholic church to Christian church to, actually those were the only 2 churches we bounced around to.
Gotcha.
But, for me, marriage, because of the way I was raised,
Yeah.
it never really, it never really came to the forefront of my head. It was never really the goal until I became an adult.
Right.
And until people like you, for sure, I credit this to you, Miss Rivera, back from high school, Miss Laparo, you remember her?
Yep. Of course.
Miss Ritz challenges the idea of marriage for me because she's not married. But my hardcore examples in life really set the tone for me, or really changed the tone for me once I became wise enough to develop my own opinion. And that changed drastically because at first, like I said, I wasn't thinking about marriage at all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I became around like 16, 17 where I'd be like, oh.
The whole concept
Yeah, I
really
was
came
like,
in, right?
Oh, you guys like chose each other.
Yeah.
And like you guys are doing this whole like life thing together.
Right.
And it's like, man, that shit is fucking sick.
Yeah. I
You know
mean,
what
it's
I mean?
pretty wild.
Yeah, and my mother and her girl, they're married now.
Okay.
And so I'm so happy for them. They actually they're legally married.
Yeah.
They never
Well,
had-
just the fact that it was illegal.
yeah, they never had like
Ironically.
a full thing, but they're legally married now, and I'm so happy for them. They don't have to live in their little bubble anymore. Me and my sisters know, but it wasn't until I became an adult where marriage even became a question because I grew up in the projects, and nobody's really married in the projects either. You know what I mean? Every neighbor or everybody is the cuñado.
Yeah.
It was never in my face.
Yeah. That's so interesting. What's your perspective on it now?
I would love to get married one
Yeah?
day. I would love to get married. I think that it's a beautiful thing. I've gotten, throughout my previous relationships, I've gotten a little glimpse, and even witnessing your relationship, your beautiful relationship with Sam, and Miss Rivera's relationship with her husband. And like I said, the past relationships I've had have given me a little bit of taste of what marriage would be like. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, I would love nothing more than to be married, bro.
That's pretty cool.
I would love nothing more in this world than to have a wife right now.
That's cool.
For real, bro. Yeah, life fucking sucks, bro. For real.
Yeah, it's interesting going through it alone.
Yeah.
One of the many things that Kevin Samuels preached, may he rest in peace, is that this life is so hard that it's very difficult for a person to do it alone,
Yeah, bro.
right? Especially at the fact that we get to old age,
Yeah.
and so our body decays, and the fact that you can't really survive the rest of your life by yourself, and that the state is not well equipped to take care of a large population of single individuals who live on their own.
Yeah.
And this is a phenomenon that we see across the world, at the fact that people are not getting married.
Yeah.
And for example, in Japan, it's known that there's a crisis. As a matter of fact, there's a birth crisis in Japan that that also includes China as well. The mere fact that people are getting older, there are more older people than there are young people.
What?
Yeah, and so there's a population collapse given enough time, unless mitigated. And the reason for that is because we, as young people who will one day be old, usually take care of the older people, right? Given the fact that we take care of them through our taxes as well,
Yeah.
right? Social Security, for example. I mean, there are people currently living
Right. That's
that-
tax funded, right?
that is tax funded.
Yeah.
Any not pensions, I would say like any VA retirements or SSI,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So money needs to cycle in order for these things to be funded.
Correct. And so it is known that for you to have a successful continuation of generations, there must be an average of like, I don't know why they say 2.1 per women births, but it's not happening overall. And this is one of the topics that Jordan Peterson touches on. I mean, he discusses this in length, you know.
Yeah, he does.
That he says, you know, when you get to old age and you don't have children, it's a tough life.
Yeah.
Because the rest of your immediate circle already has them,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, those are a few things that it's all intertwined in
Yeah.
that whole having a relationship
Yeah.
thing.
No, it makes perfect sense. It's actually really scary to think about. It's like no pressure but pressure, guys. Hurry the fuck up and get married.
Right.
I'm kidding, but that is scary to think about.
Yeah. I mean, you can have kids without getting married,
You can, yeah, you can.
but there are consequences to that as well.
There's consequences to having kids in a marriage also.
Correct.
It's just a matter of which one you want.
Yeah. My journey has been very interesting because, for example, my mom and my father were married.
Yeah.
They ended up getting a divorce. My mom dated as I was becoming a teenager, which was weird. Not weird, but it bothered me, right? As the older male in the house.
Yeah.
Very protective of my mom. You know, who are these people? And eventually she met Johnny and they got remarried. As a matter of fact, I walked my mom to Johnny to hand her over, which is pretty wild.
It is. It's an insane ritual.
For sure, right? I mean, yeah, let's talk about the ritual itself, right? And the fact, I've questioned even this. Like, why do I have to wear a ring? And the idea of a ring, you know? And because I've done it for 8 years now, God has given me the time and space to really ponder on the deeper questions, you know? Sorry, guys, got a little bit distracted.
Yeah.
But yeah, the deeper questions, like, why do I have to wear a ring?
Yeah.
And I've come up with the answer, actually. The reason why you really wear a ring, in my opinion, is to remind yourself, not only to remind yourself, but to let it be known to the general population that you are in a relationship, right? Because you look at different cultures as well, like the Arab culture, the women have to wear a black hijab when they get married. And you're not necessarily you can't, as an individual, you're supposed to respect that. You really, as a male, not even supposed to have a conversation with them,
Yeah.
right? But despite that, we still get infidelity, right? And why do people choose to go in different routes in regards to that? Sorry, I'm dropping bombs.
No, it's a lot though.
Yeah.
It's a lot to dissect. I think that people, depending on how far they are in their journey with God or whatever religion they practice, I think
Or
almost-
lack thereof.
right, or lack thereof, which is most of the case.
For sure.
But I think depending on how far you are in your religious journey, your ability to starve the lust of the flesh might not be as greater as somebody who is farther into their journey.
I agree.
And who has made that commitment to their significant other.
Or even taking a vow
Yeah.
in saying that, I'm not going to have sexual
Yeah.
relationships
I mean,
until...
a vow could be empty if you don't have the ability to starve the lust of the flesh.
Correct.
And I think it really just boils down to that. If you don't have the discipline to kind of just be like, nah, bro, this is it for me. I don't think that marriage is best for you. But the interesting thing about it is that it's hard to quantify that. How do you test for that? Because in the moment you might be 100% down for it, but then something comes along, or like we mentioned all the times, there's nothing more complex on this planet than the psyche
For
of
sure.
another human being. And just yes is yes right now.
But what about 10 years from now?
What about a year from now? 1 year, not 10. A lot can happen in 1 year.
A lot can happen in 1 year.
And I just think that, like I said, depending on how far you are within your journey and the amount of discipline you have, I would add to that.
I agree.
Those two really play a factor. And also for the women, right? I read something on BuzzFeed, so I'm not sure how accurate it is, that women insinuate most divorces.
Correct.
So, this I can't speak on the female's perspective, but something's going on wrong where the women are enticed to get a divorce.
Yeah,
or at least do what they have to do to initiate it.
Correct.
So
And
is there something to be said about that?
Yeah, there's
also?
not only that.
Are they giving up too early? Are they setting the bar too low? Are they setting the bar too high? Are they? Those are conversations that I feel like have way too many variables to really sit down and talk about in an hour-long podcast. But I think that maybe it speaks on their discipline, or what is it?
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I'm
not a married man.
Yeah. I have consumed enough information to realize a few things. So number one, there may be a financial incentive to getting a divorce, in the female's perspective. There's also the emotional perspective on the marriage itself. So two things. Can we agree that women tend to be more emotional than males? Can we just base that on a foundation?
I think that it is more likely than the female.
More likely than not, right?
The female will be more emotional than men, but there are outliers on both sides.
Correct. And so from my perspective and what I've seen, a lot of women just no longer feel happy in a relationship, right? Which goes back to the conversations that we've had on the illusion of happiness.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Instead of, hey, this is a blood pact that I have made, a lifelong pact that I have made, regardless of the circumstances. This is a life choice that I have made.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Whether the idea of it, I mean, I'm not gonna say, and we've discussed domestic violence in the conversations. Those are things that I would say don't necessarily put up with it,
right.
Which brings up the conversation: do females tend to have more domestic violence or tend to experience more domestic violence in a relationship rather than a male.
Yeah, those rabbit holes are always very deep because there's like reported versus non-reported.
Correct.
There is
I mean, there's physical and then there's emotional.
right.
Is
Yeah,
it
that's
possible?
also a big
You know,
one.
a woman's weapon is her tongue,
Yeah.
because she can build you up or she can destroy you.
Yeah.
And how many men may not necessarily have or feel physical violence, but get emotional or verbal violence,
Yeah.
right? On both sides of the equation. But overall, I think the concept of just choosing a life partner is very interesting.
Yeah.
Why have we developed that?
Mm.
Yeah. Because sorry, you
No.
because in history, and I think, you know, Jordan Peterson talks about this, is that we have needed each other, right?
Yeah.
How is it possible that I can advance my bloodline without a female?
Right.
There's no way. And then passing my bloodline through multiple females or having multiple wives, which people have,
Yeah.
you know, what constitute you being a monogamous versus a polygamy,
Yeah.
you know? Like, why make those choices as a male, and whether or not you can financially or go through life in those different roles.
Yeah. No. It definitely is a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But dame la pregunta. Like, how would you?
I would say, where are you at in your current relationship, or what has been your experience specifically with relationship? Why aren't you married?
That's a scary question.
Yeah.
It forces me to think about things that I prefer to push to the side for myself. But I just think that it's a process of trial and error for me. I think that I'm not married yet because God doesn't want me to be married yet.
Okay. You can accept that.
I've accepted that already. He's got something or someone out there for me that it's gonna fit like a glove eventually. But I've needed to go through these trials and tribulations in order to be the person that I am today.
You want to know something?
Well,
Something that I noticed, and I've spoken to Samantha about this, that there is not enough men discussing how to become better husbands.
yeah, there's
It's not a thing.
it's not at all. And I think that back to answering your question, I think that I'm happy I'm not married yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I haven't been able to do. Each relationship has taught me something about myself
Mm-hmm.
that I genuinely believe will make me a 10 times better husband.
I can concur on that.
And I'm such a reflective character
Mm.
that like I've sat there with these thoughts, and I've been able to fully digest with most times with the exes
Yeah.
about what happened
Yeah.
deeply, like really what happened. And I've been able to point out my faults
Yeah.
100% with the assistance of the person that I was with, and I was able to point out their faults
Yeah.
with them also, and it's a beautiful thing.
Which is interesting to have exes too, right?
Yeah, that's new for me because I've only really had like a good fair of one ex.
Yeah.
But having one that is almost as reflective as I am, and I'm able to communicate with, was very like interesting for me.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you're choosing a life partner.
Yeah, that. Yeah, bro. I just think that I'm not ready,
That's good.
and I don't think my exes were either. And I'm grateful. It's unfortunate, very unfortunate. And sometimes I kind of fall into a bad mental state where I almost wag my finger at God. It's like, why do I have to be the lesson? Or why did that scenario have to be the lesson for me? But I'm grateful for each and every
Yeah.
each and every lesson, or X, if you will, so far to this day.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think I'm starting to get a lot more of a better idea on how to treat a woman and how to be a partner, thanks to those previous relationships. And I think that what's coming, or what is to come in the future, the mistakes that I've made prior definitely won't happen again.
yeah,
It will not happen again. But who knows? Like I said, we're all like an onion. We all have so many layers.
for sure.
You cover up two, like a broken glass, right? You cover up two wounds on the bottom left, and then the glass starts filling up to the halfway point. But at the halfway point, there's a crack that you haven't addressed yet because you were too busy filling in the cracks at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just gotta hope that I catch that leak, if there is, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, bro. Yeah, you put me on the spot here.
No, you're good.
Yeah, you put me on the spot here. I'm trying to gather my thoughts about the situation. But yeah, I'm happy I'm not married.
That's good.
I'm happy I'm not
When Kevin Samuel says that you shouldn't even consider marriage until before 30.
before 30.
Before
So
30.
After 30.
After
you should
30.
consider getting married.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that you have I would agree, and also understand if you feel like you found it sooner than pull the
Yeah,
trigger.
I mean,
Because you are an outlier.
I am an
Your marriage
outlier,
is an
correct.
outlier.
For sure.
And if I would take the same exact risk you took. Does that make any sense?
You would take the same side. You would take the same risk that I took.
Yeah. If I was in your position, if I was a man following Christianity
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that you were following
Mm-hmm.
it, and if I had that person at the time, I for sure 100% would have done the same exact thing.
That's good. I never really thought about it. I never really asked someone else their perspective on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry you didn't ask for my perspective.
No. I love it. Now that I'm reflecting on
I
it.
think if I had someone at that age, and I think that if I was a full blown practicing
Yeah.
Christian, I think I would have done the same thing you did.
Yeah, I think there was like my tattoo says, there's still a lot that I don't know,
Yeah, bro.
right? And like you mentioned, the fact that we're onions. Here's a fun fact. The person that Samantha and I were when we got married
Yeah.
are completely different people from who we are today
Yeah.
by a long shot.
100%.
A
I've
hundred-
known you both.
Yeah,
Since
exactly.
the beginning of your marriage, yeah.
And so imagine trying to you're basically grabbing one imperfect person and another imperfect person, and you're joining houses together,
Mm-hmm.
right? A marriage, one blood, one flesh, etc. The chance of chaos
It's high. The probability of it is very high.
is very high.
Yeah.
And so having the ability to navigate those,
Yeah, bro.
you know what I'm saying?
I think that it becomes very difficult when it's very easy to be hyper fixated and hyper focused on your indifferences with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
When the stakes are very high.
Correct.
And I think that when you enter a marriage, people become, well, not even a marriage, because I didn't get married, but in my prior relationship, we moved in together. The stakes became a lot more high. Like,
For sure.
The stakes went higher. Because now my dollar was your dollar.
Correct.
In a sense. And her dollar was my dollar in a sense. And I think that it's very easy to become hyper fixated on it. Especially when, like I said, your food, your rent, everything revolves around all of that. And I think that it's very easy to fall victim to, and it's almost you almost have to, right?
I mean,
who is to blame for that, bro? You live together.
exactly.
That's your wife now.
Yeah.
Of course, you got to be hyper, focused on what she's doing, because it affects you now
Everything.
to the T.
Everything. I mean, just learning how to communicate
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and I think that it's so easy to focus on the indifference that we forget to stay locked in on it's so easy to focus on the bad about a person when the stakes are so high that you forget about all of the good that comes with that person. And instead of taking the good and working on the bad, we take the bad and just dismiss the good.
For like forever. Like you forget what a wonderful person, and
Yeah.
you. There's so many. There's so many little
And
things.
I'm not married yet. So
Yeah, and
take what I'm saying. Take what I'm saying. However you want it, digest it on your own. But I just think it's interesting.
it is interesting, and this is why I actually brought it up, because I find it so interesting at the fact that there were a few avenues that I would like to give you advice or give the listener advice, on how the hell did I even get here?
Talk to me, bro.
You know what I'm saying? So there are a few things, and I've actually thought about writing like a small book of just like 100 lessons for the modern men.
You should do what Naval did.
What you do?
He did like his tweet storm.
Yes.
His Twitter storm.
Yes.
Of just like phrases.
Yep.
Or one-liners.
Yep.
Sometimes they were like mini paragraphs.
For sure.
You should do that.
That's a good
You
idea.
should do that.
Yeah.
We should do it on the podcast.
We should do it on the podcast. But I've gathered. I feel like I have gathered enough data.
I remember the first thing she's always right.
Correct.
You told me this off record one time.
Yep.
You told
Yep.
me- We were in the car.
Yep.
You said she's always right, though.
And it's not that. And it's people find it funny.
Yeah.
Right?
I always thought it was hilarious. Too.
Yeah, people find it funny, and it might to a person who might be may consider himself a hyper male, to agree to that. I'm not gonna call it fact, but to that perspective, maybe it's tough for them, right? Which this is why I came up with it. I realized that my job was to keep the peace. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If chaos, you ever heard of the second law of thermodynamic?
No.
So the second law of thermodynamic states that chaos or disorder will happen spontaneously without action, right? And for you to have order, it requires energy,
Yeah.
right? Your room becomes disorderly without you necessarily having to even be there. Dust collects without any form of energy, right? But for you to clean your room, that requires a lot more input.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah. I think it's very easy to lose sight of that in a marriage.
for sure,
also.
of course. And
The amount of input it takes is what I'm referring to.
exactly.
Yeah.
And by the way, maybe for a different topic for another day, the reason why I believe in God is because of the second law of
Can I ask
thermodynamics.
you something?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's it like to be a husband?
It's interesting. It's
Break that down.
so a husband needs to wear multiple different hats.
Yeah. No, talk about Joel.
Well, okay,
Give it to
me
like from Joel.
yeah, I mean everything that I'm going to tell you is from Joel.
Yeah.
A husband needs to wear multiple different hats, and one of them is realizing, because a husband is only coming from the male's perspective,
Yeah.
is realizing that the female who you're with, right, if you are married to a female, is that they tend to be more emotional than yourself, right? You have to acknowledge that fact for you to be able to maneuver all the different issues or that may come up, right?
So you have to be able to acknowledge whether if they are more emotional or less emotional than you are.
Correct.
Okay.
Which usually tends to be on the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
side. And so because of that, now you have to, as a man, you can't respond with anger, right? Because that just makes things that just makes things worse, right? You're responding to an emotional person with a high level of emotion, which is anger, which, by the way, tends to be the primary emotion that us men reflect.
Yeah, and that's the one we use.
That's the one we express ourselves
That's
with.
our backbone. That's our
Exactly.
crutch.
This is why I'm anybody who has heard me, they will say, "Oh, are you angry?" And I genuinely say I don't practice that emotion. I don't.
Give me three characteristics or three things that your marriage have made you feel, or just give me three things you feel like, or highlight three things for me that you feel like your marriage has done for you, or that has made you feel that maybe you've never felt before.
Yeah.
Or
So number one, it has taught me to be more giving, right? Because of the input. So
Yeah.
I'm a natural person. I mean, you literally you literally just said, you literally heard on the phone Edible Arrangements call me in, right?
For the record, before we started the podcast.
And the reason for that is because I don't have that in me. I don't, right? I'm not a giving person by nature.
I see.
I am a person who isolates himself. And so having a balance, like imagine this, imagine I'm a ship. She's my anchor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
for the record, Samantha is very not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like Samantha's very outgoing.
Completely outgoing. And she has taught me how to be more like her.
Yeah.
Right? In those amazing qualities.
That's beautiful.
Those are incredible qualities that I wish I had. Right? Just being naturally sympathetic with people.
Yeah. She will cry with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this was one of the biggest struggles that I had, where I didn't understand what she wanted. Right? So Samantha would come up to me with a problem, and I automatically wanted to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until, kid you not, maybe like 4 years in, that in reality, she doesn't necessarily want you to solve the problem. She just wants an ear to the problem.
Yeah.
It's almost like they know the answer, but they just need someone to reflect or someone to hear them out.
Yeah.
This is why, I mean, everybody knows this. Women talk among themselves, right? Like openly about usually any topic. And we're not like that.
Yeah, we're not. No,
Women would, and because they're the most social creature, they're the social aspect of humanity. They literally create society.
Yeah, they do. They kind of do, yeah.
So they raise us.
Yeah. So wait. So you would say, I like what you said earlier about wearing multiple hats. I feel like that's something that very struck me, and I think that's something worth noting to the listener.
For
you
sure.
You said, what was the second thing you just...
I would say like more giving, more...
She has made you more giving.
Absolutely. More giving, for sure.
And give me one more.
I would say like, I don't want to say like empathetic, but around that realm, where it's like, at the mere fact that I say that I don't practice anger is because of her, right? Because I never want to yell at her, regardless of how frustrated I could be, because I know that's just gonna make things more difficult.
Yeah.
And
almost sounds like she's teaching you patience.
Yeah, I mean, you require patience to mold a household for so many years. You know, you require patience to even raise a child together.
What's it like to be a dad?
Man, it's
Give me three.
Okay, I would say it's an interesting burden. It's an interesting burden.
The word.
Yeah. Well.
Why that word?
Because you put a burden upon yourself.
I mean, actually, that word makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
I follow.
And has unlocked. It's almost like I knew this was gonna unlock like a new level of me, right? That I didn't have before.
Sense?
Well, for example, I mean, I am. Here's an idea. I got married to Samantha. I'm technically responsible for her, right? But I don't necessarily need to worry about whether she ate or not.
Right.
When you become a father, now that becomes something that you are now attentive of,
That's
right?
Beautiful.
Like it's like having a cat. Well, you have a cat.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So you know, if you don't go to your house for
Yeah, she won't eat.
she won't eat.
Yeah,
She'll
lie.
die, right? And so that level of commitment, I mean, I can't go back, and I love that because I always tell myself, put yourself in situations where you can't retreat, right? Burn the boat.
Burn the boat.
Burn the boat.
That's what that does for you.
Yeah.
It pushes you in a corner.
Exactly. And so it has made me more conscious of my spending habits.
You gotta cook up.
There's no choice.
Yeah.
You know? Remember how I tell you that, you know, whenever I pass people who are in the floor, it reminds me not to be there, bro.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yo, now I have someone who will eventually look up to me or not. You know what I'm saying? Because there's people who don't look up to their fathers. And being a father is a tough job. And it doesn't start until, I would say, the person has developed consciousness. Right? You can be there for as a provider or lack thereof. But a man will teach you the roughness of life. Right? Where a mother would teach you the loving side of life. And it's important for us as men to understand that the world is cruel, right? And to utilize that energy of our testosterone or whatever it may be to build something, to have a legacy, right?
And that's what Selma's doing to you.
Yeah, man. I mean, she's a Ruiz.
Putting it all in question.
Yeah, she's a Ruiz.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah. When I saw her heartbeat.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you, bro. When I saw her heartbeat, it changed everything.
I can't wait.
You're gonna be an incredible dad, bro. And the good thing I would say today is that we live in the 21st century, and I don't have to go fight a war, and I don't necessarily need a 9 to 5 at my current given situation. Which has been a blessing, which has also made me like contemplate my own life choices. Where I think the younger self, my younger self, that I didn't quit on certain things because now I get to reap the rewards. And, you know, we discussed that. Like, we look at ourselves as failures whenever we quit something.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man.
Wow.
Selma changed my life.
Yeah, I feel it already. We're just talking about it, but like, I can definitely see where having a child will make or break you.
Yeah.
As an individual, and I definitely don't think that anybody should just be popping a kid out.
Nah.
But I do think that it could very much be life altering. I witnessed this with my little sister, bro. She'll be the first. She's very open. If we ever have guests in the future, I would love to have her on. But she's very open about her story, and she's crushed it, bro. Her son, Jaden, has changed her fucking life. I'm talking like flipped it completely. That girl went from like 0 to 100, bro, real quick, and it's just been a beautiful thing to witness. But I can never really fathom it because we're close, but we're very far.
Yeah.
And you are somebody who's a little bit more closer to me in the aspect of just like psychologically and almost physically also. You live down the block.
Yeah.
But being able to witness it from your end, also the fact that you're a guy makes it a lot more relatable.
Yeah.
But it's been a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah, no, thank you, man.
For you and for my sister, bro.
Yeah.
That's next level stuff. And that's something I feel like nothing else can give you.
No,
There's not much in this world that will really make you need to, like... You guys get, like, plus... We joke about it all the time. Me and my friends, you guys... Dads get, like, that new unlocked dad strength thing.
Yeah.
Plus 10 fortitude, plus 10... But it's because they gotta go feed that little thing.
Correct.
Like, yeah.
The other day I come into my mom's house carrying formula because my daughter, we've been trying different formulas for her just to deal with like allergies and stuff like that. And I walk in and she tells me, my mom, she tells me, you just reminded me of your dad. Yeah, which is another thing that I want to tell you.
Wow.
You just reminded me of your dad when he would go out and pawn his clothes to go buy you formula.
He must have some really good like Rockaware or like
In the Dominican Republic.
oh, in the DR.
Don't he ain't wearing no Rockaware out there.
Echo Unlimited.
And one of the things that caught me by surprise, actually, after having a child, is actually the ripple effects that not only has on you, but the rest of the tree,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not just, hey, Joel and Samantha had a child. Is, hey, Joel and Samantha had a child. Now Lucy is a grandmother.
Yeah.
Joanna's
a tío.
Joanna's a tío.
Omar's a tío.
Omar's a
Yeah.
tío.
Toditos son tíos.
Everybody are tíos, right? Now is Chris's daughter now has a cousin.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And all of those ripples caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it.
Bibble's daughter too. Wow,
Yeah, exactly. That really caught me by surprise because I always thought about it like, I try to be practical with my life. I try to do everything myself. And then I realized,
Yeah, in doing that, a lot of people fail to realize the impact that
exactly,
they have on others.
exactly. I did not foresee that.
Yeah,
I knew it was gonna happen in theory, but seeing it live and
you get something quantifiable. Your brain
exactly,
won't be able to process that.
Yeah.
Your heart won't be able to feel that before it happens.
yeah, exactly.
not.
There's no way.
There's no way.
There's no way you can envision your mom holding her grandchild.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And I thank God for the opportunity, because it's I would for sure say that it was outside of my control.
Yeah.
For the child to be born. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure, I placed the seed, but other than that, it was
completely out of your hands.
exactly.
Yeah, man.
But that allowed me to be a father, bro. Without someone makes me a father,
Yeah.
Without her, I'm not a father.
Yeah, you can't. You don't have that title.
I don't have the title.
Yeah.
So,
And without your wife, you wouldn't be a husband.
nope.
You'd be just a single guy.
I don't even know what I would do. I mean, I sometimes I dream of what it would like to be single, which is actually why I wanted, to have the conversation with you in general.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I miss the freedom.
Mm.
I miss the freedom of the lack of responsibility.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think you missed the lack of responsibility. Because I think you're a pretty free person.
Yeah. I mean, responsibility itself is a chain, right?
Is it?
Yeah. It's a self-imposed chain,
Yeah.
at least. When you make your vows to the person who you're gonna marry and say, hey, listen, we're gonna make a life commitment.
You're right.
It is a self.
You're right. You're right. Just because you're choosing who you are being enslaved by, or you're choosing the responsibility you're being enslaved by. When I was in I remember when I was in the hospital, back in 2017 during my attempt and all this stuff, I had an educator that used to come to my room because I was in the hospital for so long that the Department of Education assigned me an educator. Come to my room 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, while I was in the hospital.
God bless New York.
Right? Isn't that a beautiful thing? And he told me, he says, he was a Spanish, he was like old school Dominican guy. He goes, Papa, why are you here? And I'm like, háblame en español. Why you? He goes, no, yo estoy practicando. He's like, I'm practicing English also. So, and he was the guy who used to come teach me math. And I told him why I was there. I laid it on him. Boom. Tried to kill myself, bro. This is what happened. This is how I did it. And he's like, oh yeah, no, I try not to read this stuff. I try to just come in and just be a fresh
Mm.
voice for a fresh mind for people. So, but I've had you for so long now. I just want to know. And I told him, and he was just like, you know, I asked him. I said, what would you tell your son if he was in my position right now, and what would you want your son to know or be told? And he said, as a man, you are the owner of your mind and enslaved to what you say.
Wow.
And I remember this because I'm rereading my journal from when I was in the hospital, and I wrote that down, and my brain at the moment was just like, crazy old guy. But I'm realizing now, well, I knew it, the words have some form of significance
Mm-hmm.
because I never heard those.
What was it that he said again?
You are the owner of your mind and enslaved by what you say. Yeah, bro. Unknown. I don't know if that's an OG quote, like an original quote from him, or if he got it from somewhere, but that's my source. That's where I heard it from.
Okay.
And that's interesting. You made me think about it because when you were talking about how you were enslaved by, or you didn't use that word, I used the word. You're almost enslaved by your responsibilities. And I remember how Jordan Peterson talks about how God calls to you, God presents himself through the call to adventure,
Yeah.
thus enslaving you to a call to adventure, making it undeniably your call. Like that's something you have to do. The burning bush, the ark.
Yep.
So it's just very interesting. I think God is, if you believe in that still, or one could argue, if you will, that God is presenting himself in your life through that call to adventure through Selma.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, bro.
It
lit a fire in you.
It definitely lit a fire in me.
I feel like you even lost weight. Like
Maybe.
probably because of lack of sleep and shit. Bro.
Yeah, for sure. Which it was just beautiful overall.
Yeah, I think also Jordan Peterson also likes to put a lot of emphasis on taking on tasks.
Mm-hmm.
He always thinks that if your life feels meaningless and pointless, take on as much of a load
Mm-hmm.
as your brain can fathom. And then when you feel like you've freed up or things are becoming easier for you, take more of a load.
Mm-hmm.
And then take more. And then that's why he always starts with clean your room first. If you can't do anything else, task yourself with cleaning the room. After you clean the room, clean yourself. And then he goes so on and so forth, continue. So people are like, oh, clean your room, that stuff is garbage. No, it speaks on taking on a task willingly.
Yeah.
Because as a man, that's where you should start. And as a man, I use MAN because it applies for women too.
Mm-hmm.
Take on a task, take on a burden.
Correct. And self-impose yourself with a chain.
Yeah.
Clean your room is a burden. You know? And it's so funny you say that because the words that I chose for having a child was a burden.
Yeah, it's
wow, look at that.
Full circle, right? Full circle moment. Yeah, guys, if you're struggling with having or finding meaning in your life, or if you are struggling finding a point in anything, I think your load is just not big enough. Pause. You know?
Yeah.
I think that your brain, you're underestimating how much you can really handle. And I think that you should probably try and take on more.
Underestimating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
underestimating how much you can handle, and your plate isn't full enough right now. Add to that shit, bro. Take on a new responsibility.
Yeah.
Join a book club. Go to the gym. Anything.
Get back to school.
Go back to school. It's a big one. Read a book. I don't know.
Whatever.
Your load just might be too light. I think and I'm saying this out loud because I'm really saying it to myself.
Yeah.
I genuinely really do struggle with finding the point in things.
Yeah.
Especially much more so lately. And that's a big part of the reason why I was, prior to this breakup, I was very emotionally dependent person. It's just, I think it's just because my load isn't big enough. Pause. Again. I think I need to take on more. I think I need to move and just take on more, like I said.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're coming into a self-realization.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Oh wait, I got to journal about this and think about it some more. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I think that's the journey, man.
Mm-hmm.
It is the journey. It's the fact, the choice, really,
Yeah.
to to take to take on life,
Yeah.
because life is so much bigger.
It is, and there's so
It's-
much beauty in it, and there's so much ugly in it.
You know, when I was approximately 7 years old, and I think about this all the time. Um, my I was in the Dominican Republic. I was living in the Dominican Republic, and my aunt, she's an attorney, and she's a real estate agent. I'm finding out this recently. I knew she was an attorney because she took me to her office. At her office, I say the words. I say, life is nothing but just death. At 7 years old, and I tell her, de la cuna a la tumba,
Mm.
from the crib to the tomb, right? And she says, she's like, that's not true. Life is beautiful. And she forced me to go on the board and write maybe like 30, 40 times. Life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. And now that I'm an adult, I'm looking back, right? And I'm like, how can a 7-year-old even comprehend the vastness of life?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Wouldn't have been able
There,
to.
there's no way.
That's why she didn't bother explaining it to you. I wouldn't have either.
There's no way. And she's a grown woman with children.
Yeah.
At that time she must have been like 35, 40, for example. And, this child says this to her. And I look back, just thinking about that, because life is beautiful. It has its beauty in itself, right? Like the experiences that Selma is going to experience are her own experience by the mere fact, right? There's no duplicate experience of Selma's experience. There's no duplicate. And here's an example. My brothers, right? Joanne, for example, Omar will never have a younger brother.
Mm.
I will never have an older brother.
Yeah. Yeah. When you put it that way, it's pretty.
Right?
Yeah.
Our experiences of this one life
Yeah.
is already shaped, bro. Most of it has already been chosen. It's like it's almost it's inevitable.
Yeah.
There's so much. I don't know. It's such a vast concept,
Yeah.
right? Of just having the experience of life
Yeah.
itself that boggles my mind, and I get to see it in so many different perspectives, just because I sit down and I think about these things. All through Selma, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy. But
That's a lot.
it is a lot.
There's a lot to unpack there. And I think that for time's sake, we should drop it there.
For sure.
Because if not, we're going to keep going for like 2 more hours. Because I almost brought up something else completely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we shouldn't do it.
But
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah. If you're a young male out there struggling, I hope you listen to this podcast. I hope that you understand that A, your life is precious, and B, you're the only one experiencing this life. A lot of us don't get taught to be proper men, husbands, or fathers, right? And it is our duty to educate ourselves and to give the best experience that we can give to other people. Those are my final thoughts. Cool?
I like that.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 6
Yes.
Thank you
guys
for
tuning
joining
in.
us.
Yep.
We'll catch you soon. Peace.